Welcome to Who Knew. We are fans of the current series of Doctor Who, and here we discuss our likes, dislikes, and insights into the modern regeneration of the show. Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/WhoKnewPodcast. All our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com. You can leave comments there or email us at whoknewpodcast@gmail.com. We also have an Instagram and Twitter account. Tweet at us at whoknewpodcast. And find us on Facebook. Today's episode is episode 11 of season 8, Dark Water. Clara tells Danny that he is the only one she loves forever. After confessing her devotion, like so many men, he ghosts her. This episode is written by Stephen Moffat, directed by Rachel Talalay. It originally aired on the 1st of November 2014 and was watched by 5.27 million viewers. Hi, this is Eugene. Let's introduce ourselves.
Hello, this is Auburn.
Hi, this is Brian.
Hey, I'm Josh.
Hi, this is Frank.
And Kelsey.
Clara calls Danny and tells him that she truly loves only him when he is hit by a car and dies. The end. But Clara can't accept it. She calls the doctor pretending nothing has happened. While in the TARDIS, she secretly gathers all the TARDIS keys and tricks the doctor into taking her to an active volcano. She threatens to destroy all the keys, locking them both out of the TARDIS forever unless he brings Danny back. He says no, and she goes through with her threat, only to discover that the doctor tricked her to see how far she would go with her threat. He agrees to help and connects Clara to the telekinetic link of the TARDIS to take them to Danny.
Now, they don't ever have traffic in Doctor Who unless it's part of the plot or
Yes.
Oh yeah,
That's a good point.
like turn left.
gridlock.
Yeah.
It's like so many times.
Sarah Jane Adventures, that became a thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I forgot that Danny gets hit by a car, but when you started across the street without looking, I was like, Danny, you're gonna get hit by a car. And then like it cuts to, Clara not being able to, talking and he's not answering. And then I was like, wait, did he get hit by a car? No.
I did think that the filmmaking of it was quite brilliant.
Yeah.
Seeing something so horrible and violent without seeing it, and all the pieces of information that were laid. And if you listen to the woman on the other side of the phone, she sounded kind of neutral and somewhat cheerful when she first answered. So it's kind of mislead the viewer, and then because as she got more and more upset, or when she did answer the phone, at first I was just like, did she answer the phone because you got hit? But she sounds too cheerful, so that wouldn't have been, So anyway, played out nice.
I thought the transition after Clara ran for that moment and staying on her and then transitioning, she's in different clothes and she's looking at it and spend time was wonderfly done. It was great. And
then you hear that voiceover from the headmaster of the school just telling us what's going on. It was really well done.
Yeah, it's like everything, it was extremely expository, but it was done very naturally, like nothing seemed shoehorned in. Getting you all the information. What?
I'm sorry, but you started it with expository, and then you said shoved it in.
No, shoehorned.
Shoehorned, same thing.
Where a lot of times you just feel the exposition, thank you, I couldn't have figured that out on my own. Thank you for telling me all that. But because of everything that you just said, where it was the headmaster saying this, it was doled out very nicely.
It was nice that they brought her grandmother back.
Yeah.
I thought for that little scene. It's just this one little scene. And that was with, a different doctor. But, so that's nice. And that's one thing that goes on with this whole episode is there are so many callbacks to so many episodes that are not just this season, because there really wasn't a lot to call back on this season because we just saw those little tags at the end. So
yes, so that was all the way from Time of the Doctor.
At the Christmas.
When they were both, or at least the 11th Doctor was naked.
Right. I did like the line she had where no one deserves anything, but I am owed.
Yeah.
I think, and this is a reason I really like Moffat's writing. I mean, I've tried to say it before, and I will probably continue saying it, is that I really like his writing. It's his showrunner, I think, needs someone to bounce things off of. Even with Coupling, he had Susan he's writing with.
His wife.
His wife. And even when he was working with Russell gave him, free reign, but Russell had the idea of what the story would be, so he would write to what Russell was story, and he did great jobs. It's just that his way of seeing things is darker than mine, and he goes to the dark places and doesn't have a resolution that I like. It's not that. So that's what I've always had with his problem with this season of him being the showrunner. But his writing, this episode was just well written, I think.
Speaking of that, did you see the books that Clara was going through as she was getting the keys in the TARDIS console room?
No, what was it?
There was the Time Traveler's Wife, which is what influenced Stephen Moffat to do Girl in the Fireplace and also the character of River Song.
Nice.
Did you notice the other books?
Yeah, what were the other books?
That was the main one that had you could see what it was.
Oh, okay.
Because she was also pulling it out from other areas.
Other areas,
The one
yeah.
Oh,
Time after time, the time in the nick of time,
Time Cop.
clock watchers,
Clock stoppers.
clock stoppers. There you go.
Avengers
also
Endgame.
A Clockwork Orange.
And the cloister bell going off when she's throwing the keys. I thought
Every
that was a
key,
nice
yeah.
touch. That was a nice touch. And I liked how she had 4 keys in her hand and then dropped off 4. Going, no, we're cutting through this and I'm taking back control. That scene was so well written. I loved it. And the doctor's lying about the paradox because he's done things where he's done it in a way where it doesn't cause a paradox. You could save Danny, put a fake Danny there, not tell Clara, so she only knows the one part of it, so she'd have to live through that again. Paradox ended. She helps put the fake Danny who gets hit by a car, but they pull Danny out at that second. We see him do things like this, switching.
What I like is then he turns around and he says, "Let's go get Danny back. Let's not change the past. Let's get him now." And it's like, that was really clever. But I also wanted to say about Frank saying that the writing is so good. I think the acting in this is amazing. I mean, I've said it before with this season. The acting is just incredible. And the writing, I probably don't like it as much as Frank. I do think the writing's really good. I just don't like what's happening.
Yeah, I think for me, the writing of the plot, I don't like, but the individual dialogue is good.
Yeah. And then I got more on that later.
And the emotions to start are really strong, really good. Definitely feels like this could go somewhere really interesting by the end of the... Did we know that it was a 2-parter? Did the audience know a 2-parter was coming?
I mean, we kind of expected it, but this season is 1 episode short of what it's normally been. So this would have been the 3-parter if this was the finale.
Because Forest of the Night teased the beginning of the 2-part ending. Yeah. So for if you're going into this with the mindset of here comes the final story, killing Danny Pink right away, and then Clara's emotional trauma from that is really great and speaks to the writing and the acting. But then I agree, the plot kind of doesn't.
Yeah.
The first time watching this, which is actually the only ever time that I watched this.
Same here.
I was already utterly furious with this episode by this point. I thought the killing of Danny was ridiculous and dumb, and I just hated it. And then I do remember when Clara was throwing the keys and threatening to throw the keys. I just remember thinking, who the hell do you think you are? And it's just like, really? I mean, God, it made me so angry. And it was also like, well, then the doctor will just snap his fingers and open the door.
That's what I was expecting. I was expecting, can he just snap his fingers? And so this is all an idle. His argument was an idle defense.
I mean, other companions want things back, and they beg the doctor for it. She's actually threatening him.
I have a feeling. I mean, this whole episode, this whole arc or whatever, is just about grief and what it does to you. Whether you like it, what happens or not, it's a more focused script. If you're not invested in things like, why, how dare she do this to the TARDIS and the keys and I don't want Danny to die. If you're just watching it as someone who's just watching what happens, it's not bad at all. But I think it's more focused because he probably had the idea of this is the grief being the through line and the driving force between everything.
How'd you feel this time, Brian, watching it?
Oh, I was better with it this time. I still don't, because now I can really look at it from. Jenna Coleman, I don't think's ever been better than this, and Capaldi just nailed it. His reactions with her, they're just great.
My favorite, I can't remember the exact line. My favorite line was when, "Are you helping me?" or something like that. Oh yeah, it's actually playing right now. Hang on a second. He says, "Do you think I care for you so little that betraying me would make a difference?"
Yeah.
And that really touched me. And then when she has that silent emotional reaction, he starts making fun of her. He says, "What are you doing with your eyes? Don't do that. It's like they expand," or something like that. To your point about her acting.
And yeah, that's why I'm talking about. Some of the lines here were just so great. I mean, she called back to Amy's line of "time can be rewritten." I mean, Amy owns that line because she's done that so much. So to bring that back is just something I thought was interesting. And her saying, "Oh, this is you trying to take control back. But if you're trying to take control, you're out of your depth." And that's when she dumps the keys. I mean, she's in this 100%. I mean, this is also scary when somebody is that committed to destroying themselves and everything else to get what they want. It's terrifying.
Her reaction when she did it, like, she can't believe she did that, and then said that she'd still do it again.
Yeah, that she realized she would. And that's like, that just gets me. I think the acting, I think, agreed. Superb. I thought the writing, this episode technically had some really great parts to it.
And a perfect example of Moffat's double meaning.
Yes.
Go to hell.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
And then her reaction is like, "That's fair. I did something really bad. I deserve that." And then he's like, "No, we're gonna go where you think the dead people go."
Yes. Yay.
Yeah, the subtle change from "go to hell" to "we're going to hell."
Mm-hmm.
Well, another callback was her putting her hands in the goo, because that's how they found Danny before.
Was that Listen?
I think it was Listen.
Yeah.
They found out he was Rupert, and not Danny, and how he became Soldier Man and all that So there are just so many callbacks that they snuck into this that I liked. I thought it was great.
I've got a couple more lines when he goes on his rant at her, and then at the end he says, "You let me down." And then a little later she says, "I don't deserve a friend like you." And he says, "I'm terribly sorry, but I'm exactly what you deserve." That was just, I thought that was great. That was just sad.
Yeah, as this doctor progresses, you start to see like why he's so cantankerous, like he's so tortured underneath. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Ninth Doctor.
I can see that.
Yeah, I get it.
He's more of a raw nerve from his past.
Danny wakes up in a processing room of the Nether Sphere while the TARDIS arrives in another area, a mausoleum housing hundreds of skeletons sitting in containers of dark water. They meet MISI and then Dr. Chang, who takes them to a room that will allow them to speak with the dead. The 3W company discovered that the dead's consciousness lives on after passing and is tied to the body. They built these places to protect the dead, which the doctor poo-poos. A call comes in from Clara, which is Danny, and she asks some questions to prove that he really is Danny. The Doctor and Dr. Chang reunite with Missy, who has activated the skeletons and drained the dark water, revealing them as Cybermen. Missy has been harvesting dying minds, removing emotions, and downloading them into Cybermen using Gallifreyan technology. And another surprise, the Master is now the Mistress, Missy, to be cute.
So it's funny watching this again, you're like, oh, they set this up. The set design of the 3W with the eye,
my gosh.
with the eye and the tear.
When it was obviously revealed, I felt like a stupid fake fan. I was like, because it looked familiar to me from the beginning, but I didn't think anything of it. And then I'm like, oh my God, how did you not see that? Pardon the pun.
I'm right with you. I mean, I recognized it as something. And so I thought, is it Gallifreyan writing? Because they write in circles. Is it the bubble universe that they did in The Doctor's Wife? Because I think that's how they drew it, with a little circle on it. And it just didn't hit me until the doors showed. It's like, you idiot, it was right there. You knew it. I knew it.
And they totally hung on it in the in the elevator scene. Like at the end, it was just like, just in case you didn't notice.
They play the Cyberman theme.
Yeah, but not only that, when Seb is interviewing or processing Danny, that symbol is right behind him in every shot.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. Well, I mean, it is blurry.
That's why I was like, what is this? What was this?
Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't in any of the previous Missy teases, though, was it?
So that's what I was going to say.
Really?
Is that
it wasn't there?
No. So that see, it's funny. Like this episode sets it up well, but if they had set it up in the rest of the season, I think it would have been better. Because in Deep Breath, they're taking the half-faced man. And are you telling me that that consciousness is what they're plugging into a Cyberman? But then you see all these tombs that are fully formed like human skeletons. So there's no skeletal thing to this half-faced man. It's just they're ripping out his consciousness and putting it into a cyber body.
Right.
At least that's how I'm trying to make it work.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm thinking is maybe they took the skeleton at the time of the person whose face he had. Or hand.
I mean, there was still some organic
connected.
There was still some organic parts left.
Yeah, but then you would see like half of it. You wouldn't see a fully formed skeleton.
Because he started off as a machine and he's becoming human. So they're taking the human part that he is attached to himself, which was in the ground fully without a face. So they took that skeleton when they took his mind.
I guess because I'm looking at it as it's one for one. It's like you're taking the police constable that went into that abandoned warehouse where the kids were being sort of delinquent. So that's one for one. So that's what and then Danny is one for one.
But they're taking two things. They're taking the mind and they're taking the body, and they're separate. And we're giving them up to the next scene.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, see, that's why I don't want to go back too far. But yeah, that's where my brain is trying to connect these things.
Well, especially now that they do have it connected to the Cybermen, like you want to go back and see how well it was connected. Yeah. And I think the more that you peel that thread, the worse it looks. Yeah.
But in the parts that I do like is that this is very much like Tomb of the Cybermen, where these are individual tombs. We just don't see the cyberized bodies. We see the X-ray of what's inside them. So it just looks like a mausoleum, but it's very much like that separated tombs that carries, and each of them has a Cyberman in it.
Yes, it very much looked like that, which again passed me up until I knew what was going on.
Yeah, but a great concept.
Yes, one little nitpick thing. This is just because I'm nitpicking, nothing big, but the skeleton shouldn't have been able to touch the button or lean on the chair because there's something supporting it. It should have been up higher, and the button should have pressed when the finger was a few inches or an inch or so away from it, not touching.
Very observant.
I wonder if that would have looked weird, though. You know what I mean?
Oh, it would have. It would have. But it would have been more consistent.
Yeah.
That's wonderfully pedantic of you.
Thank you. Yeah. But it was. You're doing so great with all this, and this is what they've done with the Boat Saxton with third season. It was like they laid it all down throughout the whole season.
Yeah.
And it was only then at the end when you go, oh my gosh, they actually put it all there. This is all just in one episode.
Yeah.
Which I wish would have been, again, like you said, throughout the season if you're going to lead up to this, because there's a skeletal structure being held up by something that's non-organic and we're hiding it. It was like, hello. And it just, so many things I felt like I missed the first time, going, wow, I really did not like this episode when I first saw it. I was with Brian, and it was just like such a weird take on what they were doing.
Yeah, I mean, I can't recall a lot of how I felt when I first watched it. I remember feeling, blindsided by Danny. I'm like, what? Because a lot of this is big left-hand turns. And I think, when we're watching it, we tune in each week or whatever to Doctor Who. We expect a certain feeling, and when it doesn't give us that, it irks us. But once you know what happens already, and you're like, well, I know I felt this way already, and you see it on a whole other level of appreciation.
Oh, that's perfect. You expect a certain feeling, and this doesn't have that at all.
No.
Right.
Oh, wow. I may write that down.
I do think a lot of it is because we couldn't put together those pieces, to get to where this episode gets us with the Missy stuff, like we've had before with the Vote Saxon, like you were saying, Eugene. And there was so much in this particular episode. If they had figured it out, earlier, they could have planted like that symbol, like the 3W. But I know we mentioned already, but even the nether sphere seems like they just came up with it for this episode, because before they all arrived in paradise, or what were they saying? The promised land. Yeah.
Well, even before that, when humans were cyberized, they were just like put into factories. It's almost like a conveyor belt type of cyberization, where what's a nether sphere? I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, we'll get to more cyber.
But it is explained in the next episode.
It is, but I'm just saying, like, it should have been like doled out a little bit at a time throughout the season, kind of like
Right.
Like if this was done in the way that Vote Saxon was done, like the 3W company is up and coming. It's like stock prices are rising. Like little bits like that throughout the season.
Well, that kind of goes along with what you guys were saying on a couple of our last episodes and stuff as to how that stuff with Missy at the end, it was so spread out and so little that you almost forget that it happened. So I think if it had a little bit more presence in our mind when this episode happened, we wouldn't have been so blindsided by like what is going on, because we would have at least like, oh, now we're finally going to find out what that was all about. But I wasn't even connecting the dots back when I first watched it.
Well, we didn't really know about Vote Saxon either. It was only until after the fact going, oh my gosh, they did. So that's what he's like, thank you for giving it to me and I missed it, it's all on me. And this one, every time they went back to Missy, they didn't give you anything new.
They didn't give you anything new. And with Vote Saxon, it was peppered through the show enough that you remembered it. Like every time one of the Missy scenes came up at the end of the season, I was like, oh yeah, what is this? Like, it wasn't like, I wasn't even thinking of it.
Right.
But speaking of Missy, when she appears in the mausoleum, that like you see the readout of what the 3W corporation is, and the way she just comes sort of like running through that hologram, it's like, oh, what's going on here? It's like a nice juxtaposition from scrolling, like evenly scrolling text to her pacing coming through that. And then even when her wild eyes when she sees the doctor, you're like, when you first watch that, you don't know what's going on. It's like a weird programming thing because you're led to believe she's part of this like an android part of this mausoleum. But then watching it now, you're like, she's excited to see her friend.
Right.
And when she puts his hand on her chest to feel the heart, I was like, should have known right then, doctor.
We'll talk about that, I think, later on, because they do mention it.
Yeah.
It's like, and you felt the two hearts, but she's so confused. Either he's like, I can't deal with that right now, let me put that aside, to find out what this is. I don't know. It just, again, needed more clarification.
Yep.
You're saying.
I agree. But I wanted to point it out now.
Yeah. That's one thing that always bugged me, going, he should have known, but then later on, the doctor doesn't know when she runs into the master. So it's like, I
was just looking at it as he should have known, but I always rationalize it by saying she's a robot, so she has 2 power units in her chest. What you don't have to be stuck with just one. How human? That's speciesist. So that's kind of just how I rationalize it.
Oh, that's a good one.
We don't have to go into it now, Eugene, but do you have anything in your notes about why they made her so Mary Poppins like? Did they talk about that at all?
So with the wardrobe and the reveal of Missy as a full kind of like non-tag-ish thing at the end of an episode, the wardrobe people talked about that, where Moffat specifically wanted her in a Victorian nanny costume, very much like Mary Poppins. And we've seen that Moffat likes that Victorian era with Madame Vastra's dress, and where the Paternoster gang is their time frame in which they operate. And then all the way back to Silence in the Library with Miss Evangelista when she gets sucked into the node, or the computer mainframe, whatever. She's in a dark black Victorian dress with a veil. So he very Moffat really likes that look.
And they just, like, as they develop putting her wardrobe together, they're like, it'd be funny if she looked like Mary Poppins.
Yeah, and that was the note that I think they had, was a Victorian dress.
Yeah, kind of like the juxtaposing the opposites of like the nicest person in the world
with the most maniacal.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about it more next episode, but Michelle Gomez, is that the actor's name that plays Missy? She's got great, like, chaotic energy. And, she does a really good job on screen.
She continues the tradition of the master. Oh my God, I just forgot it. Wow, totally just went out of my head. Scenery chewing. The master.
I was thinking more of like the character of the master, not necessarily the performance, but
yeah, just going. Phew, I remember.
Off of what you're saying about scenery chewing, she does it much better than the last guy did.
Yep, I agree.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You just want more of her.
And if you haven't seen a Green Wing, she does the same thing, but she plays like a hospital administrator. It's very funny.
Oh yeah, Green Wing.
What was
Green
the last
Wing.
thing we saw her in Auburn? That we
Probably
were really...
the flight attendant.
Yeah, the flight attendant.
Oh,
she was good in that.
Oh yeah, that was it.
yeah.
Yeah, it was really that was a fun.
Married to Jack Davenport.
From Coupling.
And I was watching Sabrina the Teenage Witch. She's
Yes.
in that as well.
Uh-huh.
A much similar character to Missy.
Yeah.
I haven't seen her other characters, but yeah.
Oh, she's also in Doom Patrol.
She is.
Yes.
Yep. She's the time traveler who I don't want to
I guess-
spoil, but
I guess we
season?
haven't gotten to
Which
that season yet.
oh,
We just finished season 1.
oh yeah, no, she's in season 3, Eugene.
I don't remember which season, but she's Madame Rouge or Roche.
Yeah.
And the other callback that you were mentioning was Silence in the Library, where they should have, I think, maybe tied in easier with another sphere, because the Doctor saves River by uploading her into cyberspace and giving her a world that she could live in with the others after they've been fixed and look normal and what they want to be. And I wish I would have done a little bit more with that, because I think that and what the Master does with his cyber or her cyberverse is so different, because in hers there are sirens. They're either ambulance or police, because the sirens are going around in this big city. And it's just like, why would you need that in the Nether Sphere? Why would you need the sirens? And just the Doctor's version of it was so much more calm and nice. I wanted something to play against those two, since they're bringing kind of that callback to it.
Yeah. Missed opportunity.
Or am I reading something that's not there?
No, I think it's both. It's there.
It does remind me of one of the darkest jokes in the whole thing. It's still very funny. But when Seb is talking to Danny and explaining what everything is, and Danny says, "You have a hard drive large enough to do that," and Seb just kind of goes, "We have Steve Jobs."
Right.
Oh, right.
And it's so dark and
Yeah.
inappropriate, and yet so funny.
And then that goes back to what we talked about in the previous episode, where like, that's obviously an iPad. Well, that's because they have Steve Jobs. They didn't want to hide it.
Yeah. It kind of throws me, though, whenever something on the show refers to something American as universal. Like, oh, they have that there? Oh, they have Steve Jobs? Like, is that a thing?
Open up the mind.
Oh, and then we get that flashback of Danny in Afghanistan. I thought that was really well done.
Yeah.
And expensive.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So they cut cost by going to a demolished factory, so it was already going to be destroyed. So that they said it had the brickwork and the brick debris that made it look like
That's cool.
urban.
Okay.
And then they brought in a car, they put it on fire, they did little bits of set dressing, but for the most part it was kind of perfect for what they needed.
Yeah, and it felt like of that genre. It didn't feel like a Doctor Who BBC production type of video work of what it would be, shooting a battle. It felt like
it wasn't in a quarry
or something like that.
No, it was not
in
in
a
a
quarry.
The quarry was like 5 meters the other way.
Right. It felt like if you were just dropped into that segment, it would feel like a show about that.
Yeah, and then the reveal of what Danny did in war times, I thought was nicely doled out. You didn't see it right away.
Just like the beginning, with his death, the way it was revealed was very clever and safe in a good way.
Yeah.
And this calls back into the Dalek. That's when the kids in his class ask him. He's like, "Did you ever kill anybody?" He goes, "Well, I was a soldier. There were soldiers on the other side. Let's leave it at that." He goes, "Did you kill anybody who wasn't a soldier?" And that's when he breaks down and cries.
Right.
Because I watched that scene after this and going, and it's just like, he still plays it well, but it just even has more meaning after seeing that scene.
Really powerful.
Yeah, for sure. Because that's just where my mind just went. And I was like, oh, that's right. I mean, we have had Danny as this tortured soldier this entire season. And it's this last, after this character's death is when we learn, the reason for his So that's great. Thank you, Frank, for going back and watching that, because that's where my mind was. I was like, "Ooh, if I go back and watch, will I see this? Can I go back and watch these scenes with a different perspective now?"
I think it's the first Danny episode into the Dalek.
Okay,
It's in the
wow.
first quarter. Can't remember the actual time. I didn't write that down.
His story kind of parallels the Doctor's story, right? When we come into the Ninth Doctor, with him feeling great survivor's guilt and remorse.
Almost PTSD as well.
Yeah, and it's, I always took it like he doesn't like that Danny's a soldier because of that. That's why he doesn't like soldiers, because he had to be one and hated that part of himself.
Yeah, I don't see it as when he goes, oh gosh, okay, I'm going to try this again with words.
Words are good.
Okay. Danny has told Clara that at one point, because he felt responsible being a soldier. He liked being a soldier for a lot of stuff that it gives you and that you do. And that he told her that they push you too far where you do something you normally wouldn't. So that's what he's talking about. I think in this, it goes, the Doctor pushed you too far. And he recognized that face because that was on his. And so this was his biggest regret, why he left the army. Not just, he liked being a soldier, but that's the only thing that now is attached to it. They always say, oh, you kill, you're a soldier, you kill. And it's like, this whole season, put that in there and how the Doctor hates soldiers. But it's just one instance that he went too far because he was following the orders. And that's what he sees Clara doing. And it just, this revelation, I think, tied it all together. That's one thing of the season arc I liked. It's really tied it well together.
There's a Monty Python joke where Missy's on the thing and she's watching all the dead rising, and she's like, "Humankind, bring out your dead."
I thought that was as a Monty Python reference. You're right.
Bring out your dead. And also, who knows Clara's birthday?
Yeah, it's weird that that's the premiere date of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
But 1986 instead of 1963.
What did we get to the part yet where he asked Missy Doctor Who or something?
Oh yeah, that happened because of Dr. Chang.
Right.
No.
Has the Doctor ever said Doctor Who before as a question?
Oh yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
Do you remember when though? Because I don't.
No.
So I think that's nice that they said they had the Doctor say it this time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Moffat definitely has a fascination for putting that in anywhere he can.
Yeah. Oh, he didn't say it to Missy. He said it to the other fella, right?
No, I think he said it to
showing them
Missy
around.
because he's asking her who maintains you because you're an
right.
android,
The
and then
doc-
she's
the
like
doctor.
Who
the
maintains your
Doctor.
heart? The Doctor.
Yeah, and then Doctor Who.
Dr. Chang!
Oh, that was great to go from like
yeah.
from like 0 to like a 10 or 11. That's just great.
that was a very good laugh. I did like Seb's analogy of the embryo universe. If all the different babies and wombs could talk to each other. And then it's like, yeah, they're just gone. I mean, life ends at around 9 months and they're never heard from again. It's like, that was an interesting analogy. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, and that this isn't the end of your life. It's just more life that you didn't expect.
Right.
Danny doesn't want Clara to find him because the only way to do that is to die. Crying, he tells her he loves her, and the call ends. They have given him a device to end his emotions. Clara sees that the skeletons are really Cybermen and tries to get to the Doctor. Missy takes the Doctor to London, where she has released thousands of Cybermen. So that's another callback. Stephen Moffat is a fan of the Invasion story with the second Doctor, where those Cybermen came out of St. Paul's Cathedral. So he recreated that with modern Cybermen.
Oh.
Another Mary Poppins reference.
Yeah.
Oh, and Brian.
What's
they fly
that?
now?
Oh, flying?
Yeah,
wait.
they fly now.
Wait, what's the
No.
other Mary Poppins reference?
The cathedral.
Tuppence a bag.
Yeah.
She comes down
Same.
with the umbrella.
No, that's not what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. I'm talking
No,
about
no.
St.
Oh.
Paul's.
When she's sitting on the steps.
Yeah, where she's
Yeah.
sitting.
Yeah.
The bird
I-
lady.
Another ranking
yes.
Scotsman. I didn't know there was a match on. She's sitting where the Tuppence lady would be.
Oh, okay.
And I like the double meaning of when Danny's telling her "I love you," which
Yeah.
is actually he's saying it so she'll hang up and not come there.
Because he loves her. So it's
Right.
Yeah, I love that.
Right.
That was great. I wish Danny had enough sense to tell him, I'm not really Danny, I'm Rupert. because his first name. Well, back again to when they went back to see him as a little boy. That's something that I think would have done it. But he's right. He could see that she would somehow find a way to kill herself to come in there to try and get him.
Right. When you look at Danny's arc or his character from a higher perspective, he's a lot like the Doctor. Like, he'll do anything to protect her, and save other people.
Okay, now we're going to talk about the abhorrent, disgusting, awful idea that this is based on, the 3 words.
Yeah.
I think this is what really turned me off the first time. This was such a disgusting idea to have the 3 words be, don't cremate me, in a panicked
the whole
voice.
thing. Yeah.
I don't mind that they introduced this disgusting idea. I mind that that's not what a company would name themselves.
Yeah.
It's just, it wasn't, I expected a feeling of mystery. Like 3W stood for, it wasn't mysterious enough.
No, it wasn't.
And maybe that was the point of why they did it, but it felt so like not wanting to be cremated is a small byproduct of this larger situation. That's like saying, it's like, Apple naming themselves Microchip or something like that. Like, it just, it felt like 3W needs to mean, like Big Brother is watching you sort of thing. And just like, so I didn't
I got that it was, because those 3 words, I think, is what Dr. Scarosa found out, that this is the proof that they do feel what their body's still going through after their death. That changed all ideas of what the afterlife was for him. And those 3 words is what started the company, why he tried to do this. When he started this years ago. So he did it because this changed his whole soul idea.
So I think I missed a major part of what's going on here then. Is this a company that doctor started for altruistic reasons, and then Missy comes in and usurps it for her own nefarious reasons?
I don't see it that way. I see Missy starting it and using him to make it bigger, to make it grow.
Because that's why if that's the case, I don't like the 3Ws thing, because she could care less about their feelings. She wants to take over. So,
but she knows what to motivate him. Because to me, everything they're saying about 3W is a lie. Mm-hmm. Everything's a lie.
You're saying that she tricked him into thinking he was doing something altruistic.
Right. She needed to get this going so she could finish her plan. This is a step.
I get it. I accept that. I accept your Frankensteinism. But I don't think it took me till now to understand that. So
in this point,
she says, I can't remember if she says it in here or in the next one.
Because you don't realize her machinations until the final episode. So at this point, you're supposed to, I think, be a little shocked and feel like, oh, this is a real thing in the Doctor Who universe that is really tragic and graphic and horrible. But
I guess that's why I hated it the first. I think I hated it the first time because I was believing it, and then watching it again, I got, because of the next episode, what was happening here and what she was trying to do, and going, okay, this is all wrong. This is all just a lie. This is all just trying to get her own way. It's not the truth about the dead still feeling their bodies. She's manipulated all that.
It's just, like Josh said, this isn't the feeling I want from Doctor Who. Ugh.
Yes.
Well, I just didn't. Yeah, I mean, go on.
No, just I still hate the.
Yeah.
I still hate the concept, and that's all.
My only real complaint about this episode is some of the Cybermen had this little elbow movement when they walked that made it seem more like a dance than a mechanical walk.
Yeah,
I noticed that too.
It's like they kind of
yeah,
like their elbows would go back and up, instead of just swinging mechanically.
I noticed that at one point, and then the shot changed, and so you were seeing, you saw them do that thing when they were walking towards the camera, and then when they cut to them walking away from the camera, they're just walking normally, and I could just see the director being like, "Yeah, don't do that again."
And they weren't as in sync as before in other episodes.
Yeah.
So this one was probably, I think they had a lot more costume Cybermen, even in some of the larger, or are all the large crowd shots the next one?
It's the next one.
Most of them are the next.
But even still, they could have been costumed and just filmed numerous times. They had 4 of them and then just composited them together. I did really like their voice in this one more than others, especially in the next Doctor's Cybermen.
Oh, I actually found it more grating. I actually was like, go back to the original voice. It was too much for me.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe it's just because of the echo in my ear, but I was just like, stop talking.
Well, I did feel like it was a lot. And it did give me kind of an uncomfortable feeling, but I like that because they're the bad guys. So
Remember, these are Missy's Cybermen, not real Cybermen.
that's a good point. I didn't think of that.
They're a whole different type.
Oh, that's right. I didn't even. Yeah. Like she's not teaming up with the Cybermen. She's
Right.
creating her own Cybermen. Whoa.
I do think the Master's a little obsessed with these Cybermen, though. We got
This also isn't the last time that the Master has teamed up with the Cybermen to fight the Doctor. Did it in the 5 Doctors special. Anyway. We mentioned Sheila Reed as Gran. We previously saw her in The Time of the Doctor, at the Christmas dinner. And at that episode of ours, we also mentioned that she was in Classic Who with the 7th Doctor in Vengeance on Varos. Chris Addison comes back as Seb. We previously saw him in the Caretaker episode. And as mentioned in there, he's directed a bunch of TV episodes as well. 13 episodes of Veep, 1 episode of The Thick of It, and he was Oliver Reed in The Thick of It. And Toby Wright,
that's who he is.
And Toby Wright in The Loop, which is the movie of the series in The Thick of It.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Sorry, just thinking that just makes me laugh at all the jokes.
Well, when he played Seb in the other episode, was that like in the end tag?
Yes,
Missy?
It was at the very end. And then Andrew Leung plays Dr. Chang. He is Jeffrey in Cruella, which he plays the assistant to the Baroness, played by Emma Thompson.
Okay.
So he has like much bigger hair in the movie.
Yeah, he looked really familiar. He also looked like a slightly Asian version of Jamie Tartt from Ted Lasso. So I thought it was at first.
Then we have Antonio Burarafel, who plays the boy. And this is the only thing he's done, these Doctor Who episodes.
He's dead.
Do you know
He's
if
got
he
a great-
originally had more lines?
He doesn't have any lines.
He doesn't have
does
any
he?
lines, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's got a great voice.
Yeah.
And in the behind the scenes, Samuel Anderson, who plays Danny Pink, read the script and was like, oh no, I'm dead. So he didn't even know until he got the script.
It's a good, I mean, depending on how you feel about it, I do think it's a good send off to these 2 episodes.
I guess it depends on what mood I'm in.
I think it would have been a good send off had somebody else been sent off as well.
Mm-hmm.
If he did say Rupert and not I love you.
So when Danny was saying, "Don't find me because there's only one way to get here," Auburn, you were sitting there saying, "No, go!
Go ahead, do it. Yes,
It's okay."
Well, let's talk about it next episode as well. I'm sure.
Yeah, that's the one to talk about it.
Oh yeah.
So, Darkwater, who is this episode good for? Or more specifically, this episode is good for who? A new viewer, a casual viewer, fan of the show, or diehard?
I'll be short. This episode is good for a diehard because you really only watch this episode to watch the next episode. And yeah, I don't know. I'm putting it in Die Hard just because I don't think it's an episode that is that enjoyable on its own. And you, like I said, you watch it so you can watch the next episode if you're going back and I don't know, Die Hard.
Oh, I did not like it the first time I saw it. I was buying into the idea of the plot, which I did not like and thought was really bad. Watching it this time, I just saw all the greatness that was there with the acting, with some of the lines and the writing, even just the callbacks to the other shows and what they placed in and what I missed and then revealed to me really obviously. So I think Die Hard, because I think you do need to watch this more than once. You do need to be able to have some time to think about it, and Die Hard to go back, because I really like this episode this time. I'm surprised how much, but I really like it.
I agree with everything you said. I was going to say fan for the same reasons, but you guys have actually convinced me Die Hard, because I think there's just too much richness in there for a Die Hard, and a fan would just kind of enjoy it, but for the same reasons, but not on that level.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with everybody. Die Hard, especially because yes, those initial emotions watching it were not good, and so it's only with time and devotion to the series that we're coming back again to it. Only because we are on a podcast have we rewatched and I found it more enjoyable certainly in like today than I did, I'm sure, at the time.
Did you watch it at the time? I thought you dropped out.
So I think I missed the Forest of the Night episode, but I do remember
Good for you.
these. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think, like the damage had already got started, so I might have already been like emotionally separating myself from Doctor Who at the time, and these just put the nails in the coffin.
I'm gonna say Die Hard, and I am saying it because I don't like this episode. I normally don't do that with Die Hard. I really try and look at it objectively, and I completely agree. There's no way that anybody new or casual would be able to follow it. There's just too much going on. But yeah, I hated this episode before. It made me angry, and I dislike this episode now, and it makes me angry. So I'm still going with Die Hard.
For me, it's hard to separate this episode from the next one. But if I really try to just isolate this episode, then I really like it. But it bleeds over to the other one, and then that changes things. So we'll talk about that next time.
So for me, I was thinking a fan with possibility of a Die Hard, because as a fan, we're going back and rewatching them and we're pulling out the good stuff. But I don't hear anybody talk about these episodes in the fan circles I've come across. So I don't know, it's weird. I think my point is this is a send-off for Danny Pink, but nobody's like, Danny Pink was sent off in the best way possible. They talk about Rose and they talk about Donna. Nobody ever brings up Danny Pink's departure.
Nobody's ever cosplaying Danny.
Yeah, nobody does.
Cyber Danny.
Half cyberized Danny.
And as car accidents go, Donna's was better.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. It's like these things are familiar, but they've been done better. So
yeah,
just to go back to what was brought up earlier, this is not what I expect from a season finale or a companion departure. And normally those episodes are kind of ones that stick out as being against the grain, but this one is against the grain in all the not so fun ways. So yeah, I'll put it in Die Hard just because we are diehards revisiting this and pulling out all the good stuff and still acknowledging all the bad.
United.
And this is an episode that I watched first time it broadcasted, and this is the second time I watched it this week. It's never been in my DVD player until this week.
Who else was the second time they watched this was for the podcast?
Yeah.
Hand raised.
All of us, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's something that's different.
Yeah.
That none of us went back to this before.
No, it's not something I want to revisit.
Well, do you want to now after seeing it?
The only thing I can think of is that these Easter eggs are for diehards because they have to have watched classic Who to understand the Cybermen and the invasion homage, the Tomb of the Cybermen homage, the tear with the eye with the tear logo. These are things that modern fans I don't think would immediately recognize.
And even some of the callbacks for different versions of the Doctor.
Yeah.
So that was, so that's nice. Not just a story, but particular that Doctor.
I think I would only ever watch this episode again if I could have watch it from a camera on Capaldi the entire time.
What about Missy, Michelle Gomez?
Yeah. Well, yeah. All right. Two cameras.
See, that's the thing. Right. That's the thing. The acting is good, but the plot is something I don't care about.
No, and I
think the acting for everybody was really good.
Yeah,
I think Clara did some great stuff. And so it's like, no,
Danny's great too. Yeah,
I think all of it.
There's a lot of great dialogue. I would watch it again because there's just a lot of enjoyable dialogue.
Right.
I like Danny better than I liked Clara, and just to have Danny be killed off as a catalyst for Clara really was another thing that made me very angry.
Yeah. All right. So that wraps up Dark Water. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time when the future becomes the present.
You just listened to an episode of Who Knew?
Our wonderful theme music is by Michael Grady.
Find him on Facebook at The Universe Explodes.
Additional music is by Damiel Paggio.
All our episodes are engineered by Auburn, and you can find him at auburnbinkley.com.
You can also find this show in several places.
Follow us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcast.
Subscribe, review, and listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Stitcher.
Or on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Who Knew Podcast.
All our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com.
Visit our Facebook page.
Please leave comments, reviews, and click like to support Who Knew Podcast.
To listen to our show on your Amazon Echo device, subscribe to us on Amazon Music,
and then ask your Amazon device to play your podcast subscriptions.
This podcast is inspired by Doctor Who,
the longest-running sci-fi show in history.
And especially the revival spearheaded by Russell T. Davis.
Thanks to Russell, Sidney Newman,
Verity Lambert, Ron Grainer,
and all those involved in the adventures of our favorite Time Lord.
Your work continues to inspire and entertain.